In this video we're going to learn about how to answer question 2 on the foundation paper for AQA English. The paper that we're going to look at today is from the November 2012, so if you want to have a look at it in more detail you can go to the AQA website and download the insert, the question paper and the mark scheme. Now question 2 is quite similar to question 1b, but obviously it's worth 8 marks, not 4 marks, so you've got to go into a little bit more detail. Also, question 2 is going to be asking you about source 2. So for this question, you need to focus on source 2. The first thing you need to have a look at is the front of the insert paper, which is here, and identify where the source has come from and what it is. So here it says source 2 is from the World Food Programme website. So we're actually going to be looking at a website. So now we're going to have a look at the question. We need to read the question carefully. So the question says, explain what you learn about feeding children in Mogadishu. Remember to show your understanding by explaining in your own words and to support your ideas using the text. So you need to explain what you learn about feeding children in Mogadishu. This is where it's getting serious, and the word explain shows that you've got to develop your ideas from what you've read. The second bullet point here says support your ideas using the text, so obviously that means you've got to include quotations. Remember, it's not asking you to analyse language, it's just asking you to find out facts about feeding children in Mogadishu, nothing else. And obviously you're going to explain what you learn about that by using quotes. The next thing that you need to bear in mind is how many marks this is worth. So here, if we have a quick look at the marks that it's worth 8 marks. So obviously that means you should be spending, including reading time, a good 15 minutes on this question. So here's what the mark scheme looks like, and to get into the top band, which is 7 and 8 marks, you've got to make sure that your answer is clear and relevant. You've got to make it clear that the text is understood. You've got to engage with the text and make inferences. That means that you've got to read between the lines and offer your own interpretation of things, and then obviously use relevant quotations to support what you've said and to show that you've understood it there, and to make clear statements on feeding children. Okay, so obviously you don't want to be talking about things that are irrelevant, so you don't want to be talking about the women, for example. You only want to be looking for facts about feeding children, otherwise you're writing things that aren't going to get you marks and you're just wasting time that you really haven't got. Okay, so the next thing you need to do is have a look at the text. So you have a read of it, and as you're reading, keep in mind that you're looking for anything about feeding the children. You're looking for about 4 or 5 facts, and from that you're going to develop your explanations, you're going to make inferences, you're going to read between the lines to show that you've really engaged with it, and that's exactly what you've got to do to get into band 3. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is look at the text and highlight and annotate the text. Don't be afraid to draw all over your paper. It's your paper, you can draw on it, and it will help you to write up your answer and link your ideas together. So straight away I'm having a look at the headline. It says, Mogadishu mothers get a hand in fight to keep the kids nourished. So that's suggesting that they're getting some kind of funding or something to help them to feed their children. This part here suggests they're trying to protect their children from becoming malnourished, so that's important to highlight. Okay, this paragraph here, it talks about the young mothers and the fact that they are both firm believers in the value of the specialised food packets that they're receiving. This is showing that they're getting food given to them to help them to feed their children. So that is about the children feeding them, so I'm highlighting that. The next paragraph talks about the mothers feeding the children, but there's nothing really that relevant for me, I don't think, to answer this question. This next paragraph here looks relevant. It says the two women are sitting side by side in the doorstep of Health and Nutrition Clinic in an impoverished district of central Mogadishu. Almost every day the clinic gives out monthly rations of plumpy soup. So the clinic is actually giving them this food. It's a peanut butter based ready-to-eat paste packed with vitamins, minerals and other nutrition specifically designed to treat children under 5 who may be suffering from being undernourished. That's all really relevant, so I'm highlighting that bit there. The next paragraph here talks about the weather conditions and why the danger increases at certain times of the year, and This bit here seems quite relevant. The children need to be strong when the rains come, she says. So that's why they need to feed them this extra food. And then this last paragraph here, it seems to be that the first part isn't relevant, but then it says, to help counter the threat, the World Food Programme has been dispensing Plumpy Sup rations to mothers of tens of thousands of children. That's relevant because it tells you just how many children they're actually helping out with this food programme, so I've highlighted that. Okay, so now I'm looking at the whole thing and looking at how many things I've highlighted, because remember I need to be making 4, 5, 6 points to get those full marks. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 things here to go on, so I'm going to be able to write quite a lot. I've got at least 6 quotes that I can use to show that I've really understood the whole text, and this is going to help me get those 8 marks. Remember, we find the quotes we've already highlighted and then try to write synonyms. That just means a different word for the same thing, or other phrases which show that we understand the significance or importance of the quotation and that to show that we've understood it. So in this case, the question's asking us about feeding children. So that's all we're going to write about. Don't get tempted to write about anything that isn't relevant. So now you've got to think about how to put those PE paragraphs together. So I'm going to start by having a look at this paragraph in particular. So the words that I'm going to zoom in on for this are specialised and firm believers. Okay, so what can I say about those words that show that I've really understood it? Okay, so specialised is a key word, and the fact that the mothers of the children firmly believe is also important. For specialised, I think maybe that the food has been produced specifically for and aimed clearly at those children, and that the mothers are firm believers suggests that they support the quality of the food packets. So once you've done one paragraph, then you need to go on to the next paragraph, and you might want to think about starting your next paragraph with a connective. So I'm going to choose the word similarly. So the next bit I'm going to focus on is this quote here, so it's packed with vitamins. So similarly, the fact that the food is packed with vitamins, minerals and other nutrients suggests the value of the food to the starving children. To really expand on your explanation here and to show that you've made inferences, you might want to talk about the fact that it's packed with vitamins and minerals and other nutrients, because that just shows that they're giving them things that they wouldn't naturally be able to find where they live. They're getting the extra vitamins that they need in order to be healthy, things that we take for granted. Now, to get top marks, you need to try and do this at least 4 more times with 4 more different quotes, because obviously you're trying to aim for the top band, and it's showing that you've really understood the text, and it'll allow you to make more inferences to show that you've engaged with the text as well. Remember to try and do this question in under 12 minutes if you can, because that gives you more time for the questions that are worth more marks later on in the paper. The final thing to remember for this question is to always use your own words and to support what you're saying with quotes from the text to show that you've understood it. To show that you've really understood it, try and use synonyms in your explanation to show that you've understood what you've read and you can turn it into your own words. And then also the final thing is to make sure you're using those connectives that we wrote down earlier, because that will help you to structure your answer. So when you write up your paragraph, this is what it might look like. Okay, so you can clearly see here that I've made a point. We learned that children are given food which is produced specifically for them, as it's described as being specialised. There's your quote, showing you that you're referring to the text. Well, we also learn that the parents see the benefits of these packets. This is showing that I've interpreted what I've read. So that quote here where it says firm believers, I've worked out that that means that they are seeing the benefits. So it's showing that I've engaged with the text, and it's showing that I've made inferences. So here in this one paragraph, I've got 1, 2, 3 very short quotes. Remember, you don't need to write massive quotes that ramble on. You just need words and then more explanation to show that you've actually understood it. A really good idea is to revise some connectives that you can use to help structure your answer. So here I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 phrases that I can use that are going to really help me to structure this response and show that I've made at least 5 separate points in answer to the question. So what you could do is revise these before the exam, and then when you get into the exam, quickly jot them down at the top of your paper and tick them off as you use them, just to make sure that you're using them all.